All right, let's get into it. Today we're tackling one of the most useful parts of English, this simple present tense. If you want to talk about who you are, what you do every day, and the things you like, well, this is where it all begins. So let's start with a question for you. How do you talk about your daily life in English? I mean, your habits, your job, those simple facts about yourself. How do you actually put that into words? Well, the answer is the simple present tense. And, to really see how it works, we're going to follow a day in the life of our friend Anna. I promise her story is going to make everything click. Okay, so what's its job exactly? Well, the simple present is for two main things. First, facts and general truths. You know, things like the sun rises in the east. Can't argue with that. And second, it is perfect for talking about our habits and routines. All those things we do over and over again. All right, first up, let's start with the absolute essentials. We're talking about the two most common verbs you'll probably use in the simple present, to be and to have. So, for example, we can say, Anna is a designer. That's a fact about her, right? And we can also say, she has a cat. That's about something she owns. See? Is comes from to be, and has comes from to have. Pretty simple. Okay. Now the verb be is a little tricky. It's kind of like a shapeshifter. It changes depending on who we're talking about. So for yourself, you'd say, I am. For you, we, or they, it's are. And for someone like Anna, a she, it's she is. This is a really key pattern to lock in. All right, moving on. Let's talk about routines. Honestly, this is where the simple present tense really shines. So, let's picture Anna's morning. She wakes up at 7 a.m. Then she drinks coffee. After that, she reads her emails. See how that works? We're using the simple present for all of these because they're actions she does regularly, day in and day out. It's just her routine. But, what if we want to get more specific? Like, how often does she do something? Well, that's easy. We can just pop in words like always, usually, or never to add a little more detail. For example, we could say, Anna always drinks coffee in the morning. That tells us it's a 100% solid habit. Or on the flip side, she never drinks tea. Just as important, right? It tells us what's not part of her routine. Okay, now listen up, because this next part is maybe the single most important rule in the simple present, especially if you're just starting out. I'm talking about the S rule. Here's the deal. When you're talking about I, you, we, or they, the verb just stays in its simple, basic form. So, I work, you live. Easy. But for he, she, or it, and this includes Anna, you've got to add an S to the verb. So it becomes he works, she lives. See the difference? So let me say that again because it's super important. Whenever you're talking about one other person or a thing, a he, a she, an it, that verb almost always needs that little S at the end. It might seem like a small detail, but trust me, it makes a huge difference in sounding natural. Okay, so we've got positive statements down, but what if you want to ask a question? Or what if you want to say something is not true? Well, for that, we need to call in a little help. And that's where our helping verbs do and does come into the picture. They're super useful. To make a sentence negative, you just use don't or doesn't right before the main verb. And if you want to ask a question, you just start the whole sentence with do or does. Let's try this out. We can ask a question about Anna's routine. Something like, does she work from home? And notice we're using does here. Why? Because we're asking about she. And the answer is simple. Yes, she does. Now here's the really cool part. Did you notice in the question, does she work from home? The verb is just work, no S. That's because the S basically jumped over to the helping verb, turning do into does. So does is already doing all the heavy lifting for us. And there you have it. That's pretty much the whole shebang. Those are the key pieces you need to use the simple present. Let's just do a super quick recap of the big ideas. So just remember those three big uses. We've got facts, like Anna is a designer. We've got routines, like she drinks coffee every day. And we've got general truths, water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. It's so fundamental because this tense is literally how we describe our world and who we are in it. So to wrap this all up, I want to leave you with a little something to practice on your own. Using everything we just went over, think about it. How would you answer this question? What's one thing that you do every single day?